Good morning, folks. Welcome to this episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. Today I'm going to be working on I'm doing a little series on my $100 adventure. And this is the boat I picked up for a boat trailer, motor, and everything. I picked up for $100. You might have stumbled onto the original video of me dragging it home, but now I want to try to see if I can make this motor run. More importantly, it's not seeing if I can make it run, it's to see if there's any salvage value in this motor whatsoever. As far as just on internal parts as opposed to the external parts. So right now I haven't even turned this motor over. I haven't done anything to this motor yet. I don't know what condition we've got here, but the first thing I want to start off with is, folks, when you start off getting an older motor like this boat was last registered in 2010, so it's 9 years old since it's last possibly been run. And we don't know, because licenses here are good for 3 years, so we don't know whether it's 9 years or maybe it stopped running or they quit using it right after it was registered. Hard to say. Chances are it's somewhere in the middle there. So, first thing you want to do when you got an old motor like this, like I've cleaned out this boat, did some power washing just so I can be in it without getting disgustingly dirty from all the leftovers, because this thing sat outside. It looks like quite a bit. But first step I want to do is pull the spark plugs out. That's an easy thing to do. It can take a look at the spark plugs, and then I'm going to take my good friend here, Marvel Mystery Oil, and I'm going to pour that down each cylinder. And what that's going to do is, if there's any rust or any kind of what do you want to call rust? Well, let's back up. So if there's any kind of rust down in there, or anything that's making the rings stick a little bit from sitting for so long, because we don't know what kind of lube this motor's had in it, when the oil's been changed, none of that information we know. But I want to see if the motor is going to be free. But first, before I move it, I want to put Marvel Mystery Oil down the cylinders, each cylinder, and let it soak overnight, or maybe just all day, because I'm out here first thing in the morning. When I come home this evening, I might start playing around with it, see if it'll roll over. So the other couple things you're going to need, I'll create a little paper funnel. Basically, you just take a piece of paper, roll it up, gives you a nice small hole there that you can stick down the spark plug hole. Makes it easy when you pour it on here to make it go down. You can dump X amount. I'm not sure. I'm not going to measure the amount. I'm just going to give it a good generous amount down in the cylinders to start it soaking. So all you're going to need is your spark plug wrench, or what I call a socket, spark plug socket. This particular one takes a 5/8 socket, and we're going to go in here and back off each one of these plugs. And I'm curious how stuck they are. That wasn't too bad. Let's pull out this number 4 plug first and take a quick look at what we got. I'm gonna see if I can get some of this in the shot here. Now what we see here is something not real pleasing to see. Look how much rust is on that plug. Can you see that? That's not a good sign. And that's chances are there's rust in that cylinder. So we may not have a salvageable motor here, but the nice thing about it, once I learn what it does and doesn't have, is to when I need to quit working on it, just pull the motor, salvage the external parts and whatnot. So then I've got the first plug out. I'm gonna stick my funnel in the hole just like that, and we're gonna pour some Mystery Oil in here. Let me see if I can get this in the shot, okay? There we go. Poured a decent amount in there. We'll leave the funnel in there. Pull the number 3 off here. We'll take a look at it. Not too bad. They're backing right out, so it's not like they're frozen rusty solid in there, which is good. Well, that plug looks a little cleaner. on the end. It's all burnt black. Whoops, sorry. It's all burnt black, but it looks quite a bit cleaner. So that's a good sign. Now I had this similar thing happen on my boat I did about 2 years ago now. I had compression that was off on the cylinders. And pour a little bit down there. And I did the Marvel Mystery Oil treatment on there. And here on my boat that I currently fish out of, I've been using it for 2 years now since I've done that. And it had some low compression in 2 cylinders. 2 cylinders had decent compression. It brought it back up to new spec. Just because things were stuck, and that's why the compression was low. And people say, oh, it was just you got lucky, and probably did get lucky. I'm not gonna lie. But the Marvel Mystery Oil broke things free, and I've been fishing in it well over, what am I at now? Well over 80 times in the past 2 years in this boat, running it wide open, running up and down rivers, running up and down lakes. Put a lot of hours on that motor since I've done that, and it just runs flawlessly. Let's get the number 2 cylinder plug out of here now. And the reason I want to show people this series is just because I don't want you to get too much money wrapped up in a boat that you can't get back out. I bought this knowing that that one is not too bad. It's not rusty down in the center. It's just rusty around the threads. Keep moving this funnel forward. We'll dump a little more oil down here. We got enough for the last cylinder here. We'll get the number 1 cylinder broke out of there. That one wasn't very tight, but it was tight enough to seal things off, I believe. I have no idea the history of this boat, know how long it's been sitting, how much it was sitting outside versus inside. From the looks of things, sitting outside quite a bit. It got a little dirty from dropping it, but that was not too bad. May get lucky here. Time will tell. Now let's dump it down the last cylinder here. Now, folks, I poured a generous amount down in here, mainly because I wanted to get in there, sit on top of that piston, soak all the way around those rings, soak down. It'll actually leak past the rings. I'm guaranteeing that it should do that, especially over the amount of hours I'm gonna leave it setting. And the other thing you want to be careful of, now that I have the spark plugs out, I want to cover this motor up a little bit, so just in case I get some rain or something, I don't add water back into the system here that I'm trying to make sure is out. So once all the oil's in the cylinders, that's a one-time use funnel. It soaks up the mystery oil, goes in the garbage. Now while that's soaking in there, another thing I want to take a quick look at, because what you got to have for a motor to run, you got to have compression, you got to have spark, you got to have fuel. That's 3 things. If you don't have any of those 3 things, not a chance it's going to run. If you have most of those 3 things, if you have all 3 of those things but not in really good condition, at least it'll run. It'll probably tell you what's going on. Like I did on my old motor 2 years ago, is I pulled I got it all running. Then I knew it ran really rough, so I put a carb kit in the carb because it needed it. It'd been sitting for a long time. And once I got that done, she ran a lot better. But then I upgraded it to electronic ignition, electric fuel pump, and most important thing, set the timing. Once I did that, it ran really good. Been running really good ever since. Now what I'm doing here is I'm pulling off the distributor cap. I want to take a look inside. And amazingly enough, that thing is pretty darn clean inside. It's bone dry. Doesn't look like it's been run a whole lot. It's points look really clean, so that looks good. Chances are I could get some spark out of this bad boy. So we'll set this aside or set it back on there, and we'll deal with that next. Once I get the oil soaking down the cylinder like I've got, I will now take a wrench or some method and roll this motor over. Just kind of give it a couple winds over, a couple, just to make sure things moving freely, nothing's stuck, nothing's hard spot. Because if it does, I don't know if this was winterized properly when it was put away. If it does have a cracked block, they crack one of two ways. They could crack externally, which you'll see typically underneath the exhaust or the intake exhaust manifold side. You look behind there, there'll be a crack in the block up in there. If it doesn't crack that way, it could crack internally. I've heard of that happening too. And it will typically stick a piston. You'll feel a tight spot. And if you've got a tight spot, chances are it cracked inwards. It warped that cylinder wall, and the pistons, got pressure against it shouldn't have. Game over. You're done. Don't put any more value or effort into this motor other than let's pull it out of the boat, because there's parts I want off of it. There's a good carburetor that can be rebuilt. There's exhaust manifolds. There's just multiple things that we could take off this thing. The alternator, starter, lots of good used components possibly. So, but let's we're gonna call that a day on this one now for this morning. We've got Marble Mist oil soaking down the cylinders. I'm gonna go wire wheel these spark plugs off so they're clean, and I'll put them back down in the hole loosely just to kind of keep any other debris or stuff out of it. At that point, they're just good plugs for me to plug up stuff. Chances are when I go to start it, I'll put new plugs in it just because they're not expensive, and I want to give it a good shot of firing and running to make sure that's working okay. Chances are the timing's still good from where it was. This distributor is not loose, so I doubt somebody was messing around with it. Chances are most of these old boats are victim of sitting and neglect. People will put them away. They get tired of boating for a while. They'll not do all the proper things they're supposed to do to put them away, to store them. And over time, things start to rot, and people are like, oh, that's gross, I'm not getting in that boat. And then next thing you know, they're sitting there for years, rotting away. But this cast iron, as long as it has good oil and stuff like that inside it, will survive. So the rest of the boat would rot off around it. These can still survive. And I love these old Iron Duke motors, these old 4-cylinder Chevy block motors. They seem virtually indestructible. And the one I like about this one, it's 140 horse. The one I got in my boat is 120 horse. So the beauty of this one, if I wanted to, if my motor ever gave out and this was a good motor, I could swap it, put this one in there, and then I'd change my 17 pitch prop to a 19 pitch prop because I'd have more horsepower to push it, and I could launch just as good as I'm launching now, and I'll probably gain 3 or 4 miles an hour on my top end. 31 to 32 is fast enough for me now, but wouldn't it be cool to go 37? I don't know. I think it'd be fun. Okay, folks, so we're gonna let this rest. We'll come back this evening. We'll roll it over. If it rolls over, then I might stick a battery to it, see if I can jump the solenoid here and get this thing to roll over. Then I can put my compression tester in there, and let's see what we got for compression in the cylinders. The other thing I want to do is I noticed the dipstick had hardly any oil, if no oil on it at all. So I have no idea what's in the crankcase right now. These are almost impossible to get at because they're on the bottom. But what I can do is I can take some oil, and I'm going to dump a bunch of oil in there, at least 3 or 4 quarts to get things going. And I won't use expensive oil to start off with because this motor might be trash, and I don't want to invest any more money into it than I have to. So what I'm going to do, put some old oil in it, put me a bunch of sea foam in there just to kind of, if there's anything in there to help break it up. I'll stick another fresh filter on there so it'll catch anything, because I don't know what's in this filter. Stick a new filter on there, see if it'll catch anything. But first and foremost, what are we going to do? See if it breaks loose and see if it's free. If it moves free, we're going to hook a battery up to it, see if we can turn it over. If we turns it over, great. We're going to check compression. So we're going to check compression. I don't know why I started counting on my fingers. It's just silly. But then once the compression checks out, we'll dig in a little deeper and we'll have some fun and we'll hear this thing bark. So stay tuned. We'll be right back this afternoon. That was meant to rhyme by mistake. See you in a bit, folks. Stay tuned. Okay, folks, we're back later this afternoon. Sorry for any traffic noise you might be hearing. I'm going to try to roll this motor over for the first time. The spark plugs are in, but they're loose. It shouldn't be creating any compression. I'm hoping this thing will actually move. We'll see. And oh, I think we're stuck. I think we're very stuck. Let's try this again here. Sometimes you can get it to move just by grabbing this and the belt friction will roll the motor over, but this looks like it's pretty stuck. Oh, well, that answers that to a certain degree. On these, you can't get it to harmonic balancer down here. I don't know if you can see that because you have this cross brace in the way. So what I think I'm going to try to do is throw a little support underneath the motor, underneath the oil pan, and see if I can't lift that up a little bit and take some of the pressure off of this. Then I can take these 4 bolts off, then I can get at that harmonic balancer. And once I do that, I can get a actual wrench onto the, I guess it's a harmonic balancer pulley, under here and see if I can get this thing to move. But it may just be a little bit stuck. Let's get after that part. All right, folks, I've got the motor mount pulled off the front. That came off pretty easy. I got a piece of wood underneath here, just underneath the oil pan to support the weight of the motor. I lifted it up a little bit, slid that underneath there, and so that's all in place. Pulled the motor mount completely out of the way. Now it looks like all that's here is a pulley. And behind here is this cover, which is your timing chain cover. So there's nothing really to pry against, but these are threaded holes. It is designed to be able to put threaded hole or put a bolt in here and like a 3-pull puller on here, so I can put bolts in here and pull this off. But what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to try to find some fine thread bolts, because that's usually what they are. I'm going to screw them in here so that I can get my pry bar in here and see if I can get this motor to roll over. Because if this motor is truly stuck, it's game over at this point. The motor gets pulled out of the boat. I don't even try to start it, because a stuck motor has a lot more issues than just all the other surrounding issues it could have. So that's why you check for compression first of all, because I'm trying to check compression. If I got a stuck motor, that means it isn't going anywhere, and it means compression test is done. It means there's not going to be any compression. And you throw in the towel, you get the motor out, you salvage parts, you call it a day. So, but I'm still not giving up on that. It might actually roll over. It might just have a little bit of stuck there that it'll break free, because I've got the stuff in the cylinder soaking. And but you never know, whatever else might be stuck on it. So let's get the bolts and let's see if I can get a rotation on this thing. Okay, folks, as you see, I got a couple bolts slid in the holes here so I can get a good pry on it. And I'm putting a lot of weight on it here. And engine no move. So what does that tell us? The engine's stuck. We stop any forward progress here. We don't put any more money into this motor, period. We're done. The next part of this exercise will be to remove the motor. And I'm gonna learn how to remove one of these from a boat. I've removed an OMC with that weird drive it has on it. Now I'm gonna learn how to remove one of these. So there you have it, folks. So far, this is where I'm going to end this video for this portion of it, of what you should do and the steps you should take to try to bring a motor back to life. This is where you stop and call it dead. Now, eventually, who knows, I might pull this motor apart, look inside, see what's going on. It's a nice 40 horse from the outside. The inside could be completely destroyed. As far as I know, this thing could have been blown up and stuck, and that's why it's been parked for so long. But the nice thing is there's valve covers, there's water pumps, there's alternators that might be good. There's a intake manifold, intake exhaust manifold. There's carburetor. There's a whole out drive. all that has salvage value to me. And same way with the power trim. The power trim may actually still work in this thing. I don't know. I think what I might do next is put the power to the cables, and let's see what kind of electronics do work. You know, does the trim work? Does some of the gauges light up? You know, let's just see what happens. But as for this one's done. This motor's done. Its race has been run. So, well, hopefully eventually, folks, I'll get you a motor that I could bring back to life. This time it didn't happen, but it's $100. You know, you get what you get for $100. It is a fully complete motor, which is a nice deal. That's underneath the distributor cap, looked like brand new still. It looked nice. So, like I said, I'm gonna call that race run. I'm gonna get my cherry picker out here. We'll be picking this thing up. I'll be taking the out drive off. I'll be taking this off, and I'll get a little more insights as to what it looks like underneath here. But to keep it clean, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a tarp over it at night and be able to keep it wet, keep the moisture from doing any more damage than it's already done. And plus to keep it dry for me when I come in here and work, plus keep some leaves out and stuff like that while I'm finished working on it. So, hey, risk reward. It wasn't a very big risk here, so there's very little reward. I'm good with that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't know if it helped you out much, but once I get to one of these motors that I can get that's not stuck, and I can walk you through the steps to bring it back, because it would have been checking compression. If compression's good, checking for spark good. I was prepared today. I brought in some fresh oil from Napa. I bought some more Marvel Mystery Oil in case I needed it. I have some seafoam that I was going to put in the crankcase, and it has some Autolite spark plugs here that I was going to put new spark plugs in it. I was going to give myself a fighting chance of this thing running, but fight's over. I still win because I got all this product that I didn't dump in there. I can use it on the next victim or next boat. Guys, don't let fear rule your life. Get out there and do something fun. This was enjoyable. A little frustrating because it didn't work, but that's the risk you take. I'm good with it. On to the next fight, which is getting this motor out of here, getting the outdrive out of here, and getting this shell off my trailer, because I want to use the trailer for some other stuff. So, thanks for watching, folks. Hit subscribe if you like what you see. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I put a video up. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your time. Get out there and do something fun. Michael out.